I was staring at the doctor like a deer in a headlight, 45 years old, being told I was dying. And all I could think about was everything I had been waiting to do. The family vacations I wanted to take, the life I wanted to build, the dreams I kept telling myself I would go after someday. When the timing was better, when I felt more ready, when I had more certainty, and lying there, I realized something that changed my life forever. Waiting doesn't make you safer, it just makes you later. Because most of us are not waiting because it's the wrong time, we're waiting because we're afraid. And fear is good at disguising itself as wisdom. I thought I was being smart, I thought I was being responsible, I thought I was protecting myself, but I wasn't being wise, I was being afraid. And if there's one thing I want you to take from this video, it's this: waiting feels safe, but most of the time, waiting is just fear wearing the mask of wisdom. And the longer you wait, the more of your life it quietly steals. Right now, I see people doing exactly what I used to do, waiting for interest rates to come down, waiting for the perfect house, waiting for the market to feel safer, waiting for the country to calm down. And they think they're being smart. I thought I was being smart too, but I know what waiting really costs. Because for 3 years, I was bedridden with a rare liver disease that doctors said had no cause and no cure. It took everything: my health, my finances, my sense of control, everything I thought I knew about life. And strangely, it gave me something too. It showed me that the biggest risk in life is not making the wrong decision. It's spending your whole life waiting for the perfect one. Before I got sick, I was a waiter. Not a restaurant waiter, a life waiter. I waited until I had every detail figured out. I waited until I felt certain. I waited until I thought I could do something without failing. I called it being responsible. I called it being wise. But when the illness came, it stripped all that away. I couldn't control my health. I couldn't control my future. I couldn't control the outcome. And lying there, for the first time in my life, I saw clearly what had actually been running me. Not wisdom, fear. Not obvious fear, not panic. The quiet kind, the kind that sounds reasonable. I'm just waiting until the timing is better. I'm just being careful. I'm just making sure I don't make a mistake. That's what fear sounds like when it's wearing a suit. And I had been listening to it for years. Here's what haunted me the most when I was sick. Not the mistakes I had made, the things I had waited to do, the trips we didn't go on, the dreams I kept saying I would go after one day, the life I kept saying I would build. All of it sitting on a shelf called Someday. And I was lying there wondering if someday had run out. That is when everything shifted. I realized that waiting doesn't reduce risk. Waiting guarantees a different kind of loss, the loss of time. And time is the one thing that never ever comes back. You can recover from a bad purchase. You can refinance. You can sell. You can adjust. But you cannot go back and reclaim the years you spent standing still. That's the loss nobody talks about. That's the cost nobody puts in the spreadsheet. I need you to actually do this math. Let's say you wait 2 years for the rates to drop, for the market to feel better, for more certainty. In those 2 years, you're still paying rent, money that builds someone else's equity, not yours. The property you wanted likely costs more. In those 2 years, you've lost appreciation you will never recover. And here's the one that really hurts. In those 2 years, you haven't built anything. Not wealth, not roots, not the life you said you wanted. The people who moved forward 2 years ago imperfectly, nervously, without answers, they're building equity now. They're building memories right now. They're living the life you are still waiting to start. And I know what that feels like, not as a theory, as something I lived. For literal years, I watched everyone's life keep moving forward while I was sitting completely still, just trying to survive. Babies being born, promotions, vacations, milestones, life happening all around me while mine was on pause. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But here's what I want you to understand. You're choosing that feeling right now. Not because you're sick, but because you're waiting. And the market doesn't care. Time doesn't pause. Life keeps moving with or without you in it. I'm not saying jump blindly. I'm saying stop pretending that waiting is free. It isn't. Waiting has a price. It just doesn't show up on a closing disclosure. I need you to hear this clearly. There is no perfect property. There's no perfect interest rate. There's no perfect market. There's no perfect timing. There's only good enough to move you forward. And I used to hate that idea because I wanted certainty. I wanted guarantees. I wanted to know I couldn't fail. But the illness taught me something I could not have learned any other way. When I was at my weakest, completely broken, completely out of control, as far from ready as I'd ever been, That's when something cracked open in me. I stopped waiting to be strong enough to move forward, and I started trusting the quiet knowing inside me that said, this isn't perfect, but it's right. That's when I built my entire life around a different filter. Not perfection, peace. I still look at every number: comps, rental history, insurance, interest rates, cash flow, appreciation potential. I look at all of it. Numbers matter. But here is what I've learned after working with hundreds of buyers. Numbers tell you if something can work. Peace tells you if it should. I've had clients where the numbers were perfect. Strong cash flow, great location, ideal timing, but they had no peace about it. Something felt off, so we walked away. Every single time they later told me, thank you. And I've had clients where the numbers weren't perfect. The rate was higher than they wanted. The price was at the top of their range. They had peace. Something inside them said, this is it. They moved forward anyway, and 2 years later, almost every one of them tells me the same thing. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Because here's the truth. Markets change, rates fluctuate, numbers shift, but peace will sustain you through all of it. When the rate goes up, peace keeps you steady. When the market dips, peace reminds you why you move forward. When fear tries to creep back in, peace is what you stand on. Numbers get you to the table. Peace is what carries you through. I've worked with hundreds of buyers over the years. I can count on one hand the people who have regretted buying. I've lost count of the people who regret waiting, because regret is almost never from trying. Regret comes from standing still, from watching your life happen from the sidelines while you wait for permission from a market that will never give it to you. I almost died waiting, and I made myself a promise. If I got another chance, I would not spend it standing still. I would rather move imperfectly. I would rather have to adjust. I would rather have to make a courageous, imperfect decision toward the life I actually want than spend the rest of my life on a shelf called someday. You're not waiting for the perfect market. You're waiting for permission, and maybe right now, this is it. If you've been sitting on the sidelines, waiting for the right rate, the right property, the right moment, enough certainty, I want you to stop trying to figure it out alone. The link is in the description. Come find me there. We'll look at your numbers together. We'll talk about your goals, your timeline, the life you actually want to build. And then I'll help you find the intersection of what makes sense on paper and what gives you peace. Because you don't need perfect. You never did. You just need the courage to get off the shelf. The someday you've been waiting for, this might be it.